Morning, everybody. It's so lovely to be here and to have the opportunity to talk to you about what I love doing so well. So, today's event is called From Firefighting to Flow. And the reason I came up with this uh, slide or this kind of title is because when I start working with any leader, it really feels like they're firefighting and they are exhausted, they're tired, they're out of solutions and ideas. And all they would like is to get that flow. So when I ask them what is happening and what they would like, it's two separate things, completely different. And ideally, like everybody, they would like to come to work, they would like to have a good relationship with their team, professional one, to be able to flow, have productivity be good, just a happy environment, so that when on Friday comes, they can go to home and go and enjoy a good weekend with their family and, just chill a bit. So let's talk about this firefighting to flow because it's always interesting concept. And in my experience, most of the time when I speak to people, it's always things outside of themselves that is causing the chaos and therefore the firefighting. And they feel that they are out of control with this. And this is not something that they can change or they can, yeah, change really or control. Right. So let me just put it onto the play. There we go. So interesting or not, success is not random. And again, in conversations, I've heard it so many times where people go, well, I've been unlucky, or this was bad luck, or it's not my fault because of the COVID, or because of the economy, or because of the government. There always seems to be a reason as to why things are working or things are not working. So that's why I'm saying that success is not random. So what do I mean by this? Because if it's not random, the question is what's holding you back? What is holding anybody back from having the success that they want? If it's not random, then is there somebody who's choosing, or is it all your responsibility? Which I know sometimes it feels really harsh. So success always starts with an idea about how things can be. So if you look around the room, everything that you are in, whether it's an office or whether you're in a home office, once upon a time, it didn't exist. Somebody had an idea about a chair. Somebody, we can go back thousands of years ago. Somebody had an idea about a table. Somebody had an idea about shelter and started working on that idea. And then somebody looked at that and went, I can make this better. And so it goes. And here we are. So it works with the unconscious part of yourself, the success, and how you think. So we need to understand how that works so that we can make changes. Because if you don't understand how this all comes together, then there's no control that you've got, which is why we need to understand ourselves. And coincidentally, whether we realized or not, is that my first book was called I Understand Me, because this is what I kept doing with people is I kept explaining to them who they are, why they function. And I thought, I've got to write a book and let everybody know about this so that it can shortcut. So that is available, by the way, on Kindle. So the reality of pressure, if we look at what pressure is and the stresses that we've got, is when leaders doubt the future, the team feels it. So awareness is what keeps us from inheriting everybody else's fear. So they've now scientifically proven that the pheromones that we get when we're scared are actually transferable and they're contagious. But it's not even that, is that when something happens, and trust me, there's always be something that is going to happen, but when something happens, if you are facing it with like, oh my God, it's gloom, it's doom, it's this, it's that, the pressure, the stress, the how am I going to fix it? Whether you are pretending that everything's okay and that you're okay, or whether you're actually totally showing that on one level or another, your team knows. So if your team is looking at you and going, oh, well, if you don't think you can fix this, then I don't know what hope we've got. That's how it all transfers into your team. So it transforms chemically as well as just physically by just watching. So let's see what happens in the brain. So in the middle of our brain, kind of where you see the that little section there, we have a part of our brain that's called the amygdala, which is an almond-shaped little gland, and that is responsible for our emotions. So under threat, your brain's emotional center gets hijacked because you're built to survive, and therefore, if there's danger, if there's any perceived danger, which again you can see it goes from what I see, you can see how the connection to the amygdala is so close. So all your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors will fuse into one automatic loop, and your brain's going to do everything and anything it can to stay safe and to survive the situation. So when we step back and take a breath and go, what's happening? So in other words, we step out of that emotional loop and become very consciously aware of what is going on, we can start to take control. And this is what I would call is the first step for self-leadership, because you've got to be able to go back and go, oh, I'm aware that I'm stressing. I'm aware that my team's looking at me for answers. I'm aware there's a situation going on. Pause. What happens? What am I doing? How am I going to deal with this? You take back control, whereas if you stay on that unconscious loop, you're going to get hijacked all the way to stress. So let's go back and let's try and understand exactly what's going on in the brain, because it is a physical situation. Everything that we see in the world was once an idea, as I said. But are you also aware, or have you ever thought about the idea that we live in two worlds all the time? Okay. And the interesting thing about this is that your unconscious mind is not really aware of that. While you're living and while you're doing, because you're unconscious, you are reactive into life, and you're not aware that you're living in two worlds. So, what are these two worlds that I'm talking about? The one is what I would call the inside world. Okay, so it's everything that's going on inside of us. It's your thoughts, your ideas, the way we are so great at predicting the future, which actually we're not. But when something happens, we straight away predict what we think is going to happen, and then we feel it inside of us. We feel the chemistry that changes our brains when we have certain thoughts and ideas. But at the same time, you're walking down the street, or you're in an office, you're in a world, and you're in the outside world, which is the world of Newtonian science. It's the things that you can touch. It's the things what goes up must come down, and so on. So we've got different worlds that we live in. So our thoughts, which are on the inside world, become things on the outside, which is what I said, is that once upon a time, a chair didn't exist. Somebody in the inside world thought about the idea that they're tired of sitting on the floor, and they found a rock that was big enough to be like a chair with a smooth top or something, or maybe they carved it with stone and flint and or put a piece of wood, and they created the first chair. So they must have had this idea, and then they went into the outside world to make it happen. And so it goes. And today, it's about how do we create the world and the business and the products that we've got. So the way you think will shape who you become. And this sometimes is scary to people, and in clients that I've worked with, is because you've got to take responsibility now, to a certain part of your life. You're taught on how to be human. Thereafter, have to take what you've learned, and you have to start being the human and bring some awareness and consciousness as to, do I like the version of human that I'm presenting myself to the world? So the way you think will shape who you become, and who you become shapes the life that you live. So who you think you are, and what you think you deserve, and whether you think you're good enough, and whether you think you're capable, worthy, those thoughts shape who you are, and that shapes the way you show up in the world and how you behave, and therefore the outcomes that you want. So if you don't think that so this is the thought, I'm not a good enough speaker, how I show up at an event where I need to speak about something will be nervous, will be doubtful. I won't know if I can remember my whole speech. It will be all a little bit all over the place, and the speech will probably not be that great, and that will affirm your idea of yourself not being a good speaker, And so the cycle keeps going because it's all unconscious. So, like I said, thoughts that we create in the inside world become feelings, and feelings drive all our decisions because decisions are all emotional. So, those decisions that we make that come from the feelings, that come from the thoughts, become behaviors, which means we take action, we do something, and those behaviors that doing gives us a result. So thoughts become feelings, become actions, become results. And what most people try and do is they try and change the result by changing the action. It doesn't work. It's very, very short-lived because we need to change the thought that will change the feeling, that will change the action, will change the result. So if we look at it this way, the thoughts, which could be ideas and habits and beliefs and memories, are part of our inside world, whereas the actions and the results are part of the outside world. Now, people have said to me many times, I'm on a journey to find myself. I'm looking for myself. I'm searching for myself. And they go all over the place and they do all sorts of things searching for themselves. In other words, they're looking outside for a way of understanding who they are on the inside. But the world can't represent a problem. So when we talk about problems and when we think about problems, whether they're at work or personal or a bit of both, we always look for solutions outside ourselves. We also look for resolve outside, but it can't work because when you look out a window, for instance, you'll see there's no happiness out there. You might see a garden, you might see a tree, you might see a car that's parked outside, you might see the car park if you're in your office, but you won't see happiness outside. If you see people showing that they're happy, then it's people showing what they feel. But it's not that you can go and say, I'm going to have some of that now. So the world cannot represent happiness. The world, sorry, I'm just trying to change that, can also not show you love. And if you look at the window, you cannot see sadness. You can see people behaving sad. But you cannot see, oh, look, there's a piece of sadness, I can go and have some, or there's a piece of love, I can go and have some. And there's no problems. So it's interesting because when I work with leaders in their teams, they always kind of go, we have a problem. I said, can you show me the problem? Well, they say, no, but I can tell you. I said, I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. If you have a problem, then you must be able to show me. But just the way that we talk about this thing called a problem is already a construct that causes problems, that causes blocks. So it's always interesting how we interpret what's actually going on, which then actually stifles us in the way that we can solve it. So what we see outside in the outside world is nature at its best. All the other things are all happening within us, which is where we have to start with problem solving or resolving what's going on. So, like I said, problems are and solutions are all constructions of the mind. And when we can change the mindset about how we approach and how we see things, then we can actually have a way to make a change. So let's have a look and see how the brain works, because that will also give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on within you. We have brain waves, and the brain waves basically are saying how we are, what's happening to us. So from the age of 0 to 2, our brain waves are delta. From a hypnotherapy perspective, if I put somebody in a trance and I put them into a delta brainwave, they are so deep, they're drooling out and making a big wet patch on their shirts. It's that relaxing and that deep. Babies and toddlers need to be wide awake but brainwave to be delta, because this is highly suggestible state of life. And from the age of 0 to 2, we make the biggest growth ever, physically and mentally. Of all the things, we go from being totally useless and helpless with not being able to look after ourselves to walking, talking a little bit, being able to dress ourselves, being able to eat, being able to recognize life, and physically we almost double in size. Never again in our lives do we go through such a change. So this is not a time where we can go, I don't know if this is good for me. We just have to accept it. 2 to 8, we go into theta, which is a little bit less suggestible, but still very, very suggestible. And then roundabout, give or take, at the age of 8, we then go into alpha, and that takes us through to about 12. Now, alpha would be the typical dream state. It's a creative state. It's something in between awake and, you can be awake, but alpha, but you can also be in a meditation and still be in alpha. So it's that in between state that we've got. And then after the age of 12, we go into beta. And beta is divided into low, medium, and high. Now, here's the caveat is that beta, if you're in high beta, is basically survival mode. And when we are in survival mode, what we're telling the brain, because the brain doesn't understand that the report hasn't been handed in or we didn't meet our sales target, the brain just feels the state that we're in and goes, there's danger. I'm in survival mode. So everything needs to reduce. My vision becomes reductive. I become reactive and I'm constantly looking out for what is wrong. So I can't see opportunities. I can't problem solve. I can't see the big picture or have a vision because in that moment, the most important thing for your brain is to survive. So it's always very, very interesting. But here's the other thing that happens around about because of the age of 12. This is where we separate from unconscious because up until that age, we basically mainly unconscious, and then the conscious mind kicks in, which is the beta. So, from a psychological point of view, physiological point of view, this is what's going on with you. So the conscious mind emerges around the age of 12 and the unconscious mind separates. Now, this is really, really important because what we don't understand is that there's things that happen to our brains as a result of this. The other really interesting thing about us is that it takes up to plus minus the age of 35 for your frontal lobe, which is the executive seat of you. This is your rational thinking. This is your executive decision making. This is your problem solving part of you. Takes until the age of 35, which if you think that the conscious mind only starts around about the age of 12, and then you have the frontal lobe needing till the age of 35, and then we expect teenagers to make good decisions. Can't happen. So I think it might help some of you understand your children, but it also helps you understand why you made certain choices and decisions earlier on in your life. Things were not ready for you to be able to make those big choice and decisions. Right. So what is happening here? Why is this important? Because what we learn in those years affect you for the rest of your life. So let me take it a little bit further that you can understand more what's going on. We have two types of memories. Okay. So the one is all about knowledge and it's what I've learned. I've learned to write. I've got a memory of how to walk. I've got a memory of how to speak. I know how to speak another language because I can remember learning another language and so on. So that's knowledge-based memory. Brilliant, lovely, we need it. But we also have an event based memory, which is like I had this event and it made me feel bad. My teacher shouted at me, my parents moved homes and I lost my best friend, somebody was in a car accident, whatever happened, all these events. So I can remember back when I was, say, 12 or when I was 15, something happened to me. And as a result, I felt unseen. I felt not good enough. I felt humiliated. I felt rejected. I felt abandoned. All the negative feelings come from events. And this is what actually happens with us. We tell a story to our friends and family. Like every time I start with somebody, they'll tell me why they are the way they are. So they tell me a story of why things are the way they are in their lives. But basically, what they're really saying is, I had an event in my life and since then, I haven't been able to change. So that event of when they were 10, when they were 8, when they were 15, or whatever age it happened, did something to them, humiliated them, rejected them, abandoned them, scared them. And they have never been able to get over that. And as a result, now the brain's constantly protecting and the brain's constantly saying, I need to help you. I need to protect you. So you're operating out of that brain that is working from the memory of an event. Because I'll always talk about we need to let go of some memories, and people say, but I can't forget what has happened. And I said, we need to remember the knowledge on what to do, but the things that happened, we can remember them without the emotion so that that can become wisdom and lessons of what not to do or how to do something different, and then make the best of my life and rise up for that. So we also have two types of minds, and this is really, really important when it comes to the stress. So I know that it's taken me nearly 23 minutes to get to this point, but this is the important part. We have what we call a rational mind, which is being able to really look closely at things, to look at details, to analyze, to understand, to be rational. And we have what we call the emotional mind, which is looking at the whole picture from the whole. Now, here's the thing, is that the rational mind only starts developing around about the age of 12 when the conscious mind kicks in. The emotional mind has already started developing from the day you were born. So it's got a lot more experience and it covers a bigger scope. So it is easier for the emotional mind to hijack a situation before the rational mind can kick in, which is what happens when there's a crisis, when there's stress, when there's a problem, is what's happening is that the emotional mind is kicking in because it has more experience and it's got more scope and more memory about things rather than the rational. You have to teach yourself through experience and repetition that if you go rational first and then emotional, then you're probably going to be able to solve things a lot quicker. So, rational minds and emotional minds are separate and they think differently. When you are stressing about what's going on and that puts you into that reactive firefighting, you're working with your emotional mind. You're not working with a rational mind. When you can bring awareness and pause and stop and then get into rational thinking, then you can start solving things and making changes. So let's look at what goes on also with the unconscious steering mechanism. So let's just assume that you want to lose some weight, you want to be healthier, you want to feel better, you're out for lunch with your friend, and there goes the cake trolley right past you. Before you can rationally think about, I don't want to eat this sugar is not good for me, it's going to break my diet, it's going to make me feel sluggish, blah, 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 whatever it is. Before you can rationally think that, you've got a little team of neurons, they're called mirror neurons, that have already decided and voted of whether you should have the cake or not. So if a lot of them are going because of your history and your attachment, oh, you've worked so hard, you deserve it. Oh, come on, have it. Oh, it's only one piece of cake. It's not so bad. You beat something. So if you've got more of those, then there's going to be more yeses and less no's. The no's might be, no, no, come on, you don't want to do that. You don't want to. But the other one's like, oh, it's only one piece of cake. It's only, and that happens like this. So as soon as that trolley comes past and you see the cake, your emotional brain has already, with all your mirror neurons, have already decided and voted as to what may or may not happen. And if you don't have a level of awareness to know that this happens regardless, and therefore you need to step back and go rational, you've already decided and you'll then react automatically on autopilot, basically. So why focusing on the subconscious is a steering mechanism is because if you don't take control, your unconscious will. And it's based on the experience of 5-year-old, 6-year-old, a 7-year-old you and what you went through. So your level of success or failure is pre-programmed, which is like people like, what? What chance have I got? So all beliefs are formed out of experiences. So your beliefs are not truth. They're just formed out of experiences. And the meaning that you give them is from the emotions that you felt in that time. So if you felt hugely humiliated when you were trying to make a speech, then the experience is humiliation and fear. So therefore the belief is I can't do this because that belief will help you never humiliate yourself again. So it's there to sort of protect you, but it's not true Beliefs are decisions. So if you think about how do I make a decision in my life about if this is good or bad, right or wrong, can I or can't I, this will work, this won't work. It's all decisions that you make. No, it can't work. And it can't work because I believe from my experiences that this will never work. So it comes from there. Whereas, so beliefs are ideas, they are opinions, they are repeated experiences that you may have, they are beliefs that belong to others that they've generously passed on to you. And because you didn't have any reference or experience to go, no, thank you, I don't want this, you accepted them. On the same token, we've also got paradigms. Now, paradigms are different to beliefs because beliefs come out of experience of life. Like I've experienced, I did something and I experienced this. Paradigms is from observation. I'm playing with my games on the floor while I'm 3 years old. My parents are having a major fight in the background. I don't know at that age that that is not a good example of what a relationship looks like. I'm observing that and I'm going, I don't know anything else, so this is what must be right. So it is an observation. And paradigm is a Greek word for example. So we watch people to learn how to behave. Because remember, as a human being, you enter Earth, you know nothing. Somebody has to show you how to be a human. So it just is. It's not logical, but it is what it is. But it's your job to go, I don't like this and I want to change. I want something better. I want something different. So we learn by repetition. And in the same way that we've learned something through repetition, we can also unlearn it and learn something new. It's not carved in stone. Your beliefs and your paradigms are not there forever. You can change everything about you. So by observing, we can practice and perfect. And these could be the habits of our programs, and making changes, becoming successful starts with you committing to your success, to going, I don't know why until now I've done this, I felt this, but it's not who I want to be. It's not what I want out of my life. And therefore, I am going to work on me and I'm going to make some changes. So you can't change what you don't know. You need somebody somehow, somewhere, book, seminar, coach to help you. It's very hard to do it on your own. And awareness is the first step to taking control back into your life. So the most important decision that you can make today is what you decide is important about your life and about what you want to do. So, what can you do next? You can use mindfulness to bring awareness. You go from awareness, you can now bring understanding. So, through awareness, you can go, I now understand why I react that way. From that understanding, you can now make the choice on how to go forward and what to change and who to change and all of that. And through repetition, you can reprogram yourself to show up, react, behave differently. I am a huge believer of daily rituals because it's part of the repetition of changing. So, gratitude always puts you in a really, really high energetic vibration, which then makes you better equipped to accept and to see and to become aware. Choose to feel good. Really and truly, it's not going to be given to you. Nobody's going to make you feel good. You've got to choose this for yourself. Focus on your goals. Be very, very clear on what your goals are, where you want to be, what you want to do. Otherwise, you are busy, very, very busy, going everywhere and reaching nowhere. Think about your intention of the day. And again, I do this a lot with leadership trainings. Like, who sat this morning with a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and said, my intention for the day is, and most people go, I don't have time for that. You really should be doing it more. One way of doing your intentions for the day is asking yourself, what would make today perfect? Ask yourself that and just listen to the answers and then set it out for the day. Do breath work because every emotion has its own breath. So do your breath work because that will help you change your state of being. And massively big on meditation, which I'm happy to share a little bit more about. The science of meditation is not woo-woo anymore. It's like pseudoscience is completely gone with that. So what are you going to do differently? Think about from the things that you've seen and heard and write a promise to yourself. What are you committed to? And I'd love for you to share it in the group. And if you have any questions, this is the time to put your questions forward. And before we go on, I was very rudely forgot to introduce my wonderful PA, Fari. So Fari is here to help us with this presentation, but also if you have any questions or if you want to book to come through, I would love to chat some more with you and help you become aware of where you can improve, what you can change, what we can do together, and all of that. So, Fari is going to put a link into the chat for you to be able to go directly and book some time with me. It's just going to be a nice, friendly, no obligation chat. What you do afterwards is up to you, but it's my truth and shift kind of chat where I will help you see what is going on with you a lot quicker. And then you can make some decisions about how you want to go forward. I can help you think about some things, but I'm really good at helping you make sense out of the nonsense in your life. So you can reach out to me by email. This is my website, but you can also reach out through the link that Fari is putting there or any questions. So we're just going to go into a Q&A right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I hope you found this very interesting, and let's have some discussions. I need to put my glasses on so I can see everybody. So Jeremy and Hasibul, thank you so much for attending. If it's okay, Hasibul, to ask you, what is the biggest thing that you're taking away from this presentation? Would you care to share with us?
So far, I have learned a lot of things actually. How actually brain works and what to focus when. The sometimes situation is not always our under control, so we have to face a lot of things actually. So which is very difficult, but we need to understand how brain works and how to deal with it sometimes. So this is
Yeah.
the most important part what I'm seeing.
Yeah, because you see, most people just think these things happen to them. It's like it's nothing to do with me. It's not in my control. So therefore, if it's happening to me, I don't have control to make change. But when you start to realize what your brain is actually doing, then you realize that you are full in control, and therefore you've got the power to change within you.
Yeah, yeah, that's the point actually.
Thank you so much for that. How about you, Jeremy? What was the biggest thing that you took away from this chat? Oh, I can't hear you. I think you were talking there, Jeremy, but we can't hear you. Try it again. Well, while Jeremy's doing that, Hasibul, I'm going to ask you a different question. Have you got a question for me from what you heard?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, Jeremy, I can hear you now.
In terms of the neuroplasticity, like you said before, and you can unlearn things,
Yeah.
and repetition is important, and you just got to repeat things, and just the brain obviously is quite complex, but you just got to and gratitude is very important, and you just got to be grateful for every day, wake up and be grateful, and certain things like that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a gift because in the past, I remember when I was growing up, there was a thing that after a certain age, and it was way before 35, your brain cells actually stopped growing. Your brain was what it was, and what you had is what you'll always have, and you can't change. You can't bring change. And now, through the development of science and observation and this and that, they've come to realize oh, hold on, we've been wrong about this. We absolutely can change. The brain is just so magnificent. And through neuroplasticity and all of that, how we can change so many things about ourselves, which is hopeful because if you've learned something, it also means you can unlearn it and learn something new. So, yes, it brings a lot of hope to if things are not the way you want them, what you can do to make change. So, going back to you, Hazibul, what's the one question that you have for me?
For now, actually, no questions. But uh, I actually know about these things from a TEDx talk. Maybe
Yeah?
it was about 9 years ago. Lara Boyd, her name was. So I learned from there, and when I listened to your knowledge, actually, it actually
Reminded you.
recreated. Yeah, reminded it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad that happened. So what's one thing that you're going to do differently as a result of what you've heard today? What's a commitment, a decision you're making for yourself? I'm putting you
Actually.
on the spot.
No, the thing is, I need to think clearly actually, without nervous. Actually, this is the main thing actually. When decision make, and yeah, I can unlearn and learn new things as well. And I truly believe it because I am on different zones right now. I need to handle a lot of clients right now as well from different countries. So I know it. So I need to fix it as well actually.
Excellent. Excellent. How about you, Jeremy? Have you got something, a question for me? I mean, I know Jeremy quite well, so we've had lots of conversations, but I'm just wanting to ask if you've got any questions or what's the biggest commitment that or decision that you're making for yourself?
Just to keep on repeating things in terms of repetition, which sometimes I don't do, but just repetition and just keep
Yeah,
on repetition and to-do lists.
excellent.
Yeah.
Right, so if you would like to have a session with me, like I said, it's a free, no obligations. It just will help you understand, see yourselves more clearly. Fari has put in the chat um, the link, so you can just follow that and book a session with me. And otherwise, I'd like to thank you very, very much. You're going to learn a lot from me. Just keep following me. You'll see there'll be more presentations. Um, If there's something specific that you want me to talk about, send me a message, and I will make a video or something, or a post, or who knows, a story for you, but for everybody, so that everybody can learn. But I'm happy to do that as well. So, otherwise, if there's no more questions, I'd like to say thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All
Vicky.
right, you take care.
Elizabeth.